Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is Fernando Uribe filling in for the great John Tobacco here on a Woman Wednesday on Liquid Lunch. Don't forget to like Liquid Lunch on Facebook and always follow it on Instagram and Twitter if you're not doing so already. Exceptional content on a daily basis there by John Tobacco and the great staff here on a Liquid Lunch. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a great guest come up in just a few moments. But, it begs the question, and something that was called out during the vice presidential debate, and even during the Democratic primaries when it came to Kamala Harris. As we all know, Kamala Harris ascended to considerable power in the state of California when it comes to how quickly she became Attorney General. And then, of course, her rapport with former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown paid off dividends for her as she was able to become Attorney General, get elected there, and, of course, to become a United States Senator. So, again, I don't want to sort of ridicule how she got there. I think we all know the memes online and all the jokes at her expense. Again, I don't want to engage in that sort of, lack of taste there. But I think we all know the history behind Kamala Harris, folks. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But something that's been called out about her in her time as Attorney General was the fact about, how many people of color she incarcerated when it came to the crime bill that was passed again in 1994, who, by the way, guess who the author was? Yes, you guessed it. Former Vice President and current Democratic nominee Joe Biden. And without question, ladies and gentlemen, yes, during the primary process, yes, we know that Joe Biden got grilled on it somewhat. But let me tell you something. It's interesting to me how even during the primary process, we know that former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard called out Kamala Harris on her, quite frankly, her disingenuous enforcement of the crime bill and locking up well over 1,500 Black and brown people in the state of California. And I don't know about you, but is anyone surprised that the liberal media hasn't called her on it more so? Because you know what? She deserves all the scrutiny and all of the backlash possible. Because you know what? It's now interesting to me that the Democratic Party is so woke and they're all about being down with the cause and being advocates for Black and brown people. Folks, who are we kidding? Okay? We know that these punitive laws, especially the crime bill in states like California, have unnecessarily, incarcerated Black and brown people by a large margin. So when we talk about systemic racism, folks, guess who has been partly responsible for that? Yes, you guessed it. Joe Biden authoring the crime bill. And subsequently since then, it's really, folks, it's fascinating to me when I hear Democrats running for either House seats or Senate seats talking about how this party is the party of inclusivity, how they're the party of, minorities. And you know what? You wouldn't know that by the way that our criminal justice system has sort of affected these policies that have disproportionately affected people of color for decades. And now Kamala Harris all of a sudden has an epiphany, right? I mean, you've seen the YouTube clips, you've seen her go on different programs, sort of laughing it off. Oh, yeah, I've smoked marijuana. Listen, I don't judge her for smoking marijuana. I never have. I never will. I don't care to. But you know what? If you have, hey, that's your business. But you know what? When you decide to go on syndicate radio shows and sort of laugh about it while you've been responsible for incarcerating Black and brown people by the thousands, and you have not been held accountable for it. Folks, there is a lawsuit out in the state of California where someone was wrongfully imprisoned by Kamala Harris during her time as Attorney General. And guess what? Taxpayers in the state of California are paying out that lawsuit. That should tell you everything you need to know about how disingenuous this policy is. And more so, how Kamala Harris has been as disingenuous as the day is long. And this is something too, and I've talked about it before on this program when I've been a contributor on Money Mondays, and I'll talk about it again, folks. The fact that she could be within a heartbeat of the presidency should scare the living daylights out of you. Okay, she is an awful, vile woman. And before you get triggered, if she was a man, I would say the same thing based on her voting record and based on the ascension to power and based on everything she's done that makes her absolutely ruthless. I'm not condemning someone being ruthless per se, but it's something that she never gets called out on. She never gets crucified for, right? Because remember, the Democratic Party and the liberal media, when it comes to women, as long as you're a liberal woman, that's all well and good. But you know what? They always say, we want liberal, we want women at the table. No. You want liberal women at the table. You don't care about conservative women. And it's shown, folks, in these last 48 hours with sort of the crucifixion of Amy Coney Barrett, who is a distinguished jurist, who is going to be the next Supreme Court justice to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Okay. But again, when we talk about someone like Kamala Harris, who openly objects to someone like Amy Coney Barrett, who is, once again, a distinguished jurist, an amazing judge. That is something that nobody in their right mind would ever call Kamala Harris. All right. No one would ever use the two words amazing jurist with her having a law degree, ever, if you were being intellectually honest. And this is where I think we get into the problems, ladies and gentlemen, with identity politics. It's something I've called out on this program with John Tobacco. It's something I've called out on my own content every single week. But it's something that the Democratic Party has so much capital and investment in. And ladies and gentlemen, there are people in the South and the Midwest, and even here on the coasts, that aren't buying into it. And I think it's going to show on November 3rd. I think this is going to backfire on the Democratic Party coming up on election night, because they think that these antics in the last 48 hours against a working mother of 7 with 2 black kids specifically, and they think that this is going to win over people. It's not. Again, and the polling that you're seeing on TV right now, folks, I wouldn't pay attention to it. We've all learned that polls mean absolutely nothing, because we learned about it in 2016. Every major news publication, from the New York Times, which, let's be honest, that newspaper is not worth the ink it's printed on, okay? That's how awful it is. Whether it's the Washington Post, the LA Times, whether it's primetime cable news like MSNBC or CNN. Listen, aside from losing brain cells when you watch those networks, they try to mislead you all throughout 2016, and they're trying to do it again in 2020. Again, folks, I truly believe, and I've said this before and I'll continue saying it, this is going to backfire royally on Democrats. Because, a lot of liberals here in New York and in New Jersey feel, the president hasn't handled COVID properly, or the president hasn't, rebuilt this economy. Folks, the economy is rebounding. Okay, companies are hiring. There are parts of the country that have, again, been rejuvenated with this economy. And why? Because of the president's policies. Okay, slashing all these overly burdensome regulations that we saw from 2009 until 2017 under the Barack Obama administration. This is something to keep an eye on. Okay? And getting back to Kamala Harris, one of the things that, she never gets called out on is the idea that, she promised during the VP debate against Mike Pence, which, by the way, Mike Pence had a beautiful performance that night, and I think he outclassed her in every sense of the word, right? And all we heard from the liberal media was, oh, okay, Mike Pence was mansplaining. Do you think that Dick Durbin and Cory Booker weren't mansplaining with Amy Coney Barrett the last 48 hours, right? Where's the liberal media outrage there? Again, folks, it's liberals with their typical hypocrisy talking out of both sides of their mouth. And I wish people would wake up, because you know what? Is there a more toxic entity in this country, folks, than liberals, and many in the Democratic Party? I don't know about you, but I'm sick of it. And I know many of you are as well. Folks, we have a great guest coming on in just a few moments here on A Liquid Lunch. But once again, folks, news of the day, certainly Amy Coney Barrett, and more so, we're seeing the tantrums and meltdowns from Senators Kamala Harris and her colleagues on the Judiciary Committee, which include Dianne Feinstein, the senior senator from California. What a disaster she is in the Golden State. And of course, we have Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota. What a disaster she is out there in the state of 10,000 lakes. Of course, we're seeing, Dick Durbin, as I always like to refer to him, what a more appropriate name for Richard out of the state of Illinois. And ladies and gentlemen, again, these antics, they may, appease them. And, listen, it might make them all happy. And, they might have a party in their pants about this childishness. But, folks, the American people see through this. The American people see through it wholeheartedly. And I know you, the loyal viewing audience here on Liquid Lunch, you're a smart audience, folks. I'm not trying to pander here. I'm telling you the truth. You're a smart audience, because it shows in the feedback here on the program. And I'll tell you, what's been going on the last 48 hours is just downright disgraceful. But we saw it 2 years ago, right? We saw it with Brett Kavanaugh. We saw it with the way that liberals and Democrats on the Judiciary Committee treated an honorable, intelligent, and immensely talented jurist like Brett Kavanaugh, and the way they treated him. You know what? Thank the Lord that he was confirmed. And you know what? Thank the Lord that Amy Coney Barrett is going to be confirmed probably in the next 2 days. Because you know what? When it comes to a Supreme Court that interprets the law, because again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to feel like I'm having class here, but remember the 3 branches of government, right? Executive branch forces the law, right? Legislative branch writes the law. And guess what? The judicial branch interprets the law. And for some reason, even those with law degrees on the Judiciary Committee, or even some liberals out in social media or in cable news, They forgot that maybe they slept through constitutional law in law school. But even me, an academic and a layman, when it comes to the law, I know that. I don't know about you folks. There's a lot to talk about how disgusting liberals have become in this news cycle. We'll be right back, folks, here on A Liquid Lunch. Don't go anywhere. You're watching us on Biz TV and also on Facebook Live. I'm Fernando Uribe, filling in for the great John Tobacco. We'll return right after this.